Hello, and welcome back to another chapter of It Hurts to Hope by Inquilatory on AO3. Chapter 30. Remind me once more. Every communicator goes off at the same time. It's quiet, slight, and most don't even notice it because they're already asleep. But for those who do hear it, it sounds like a gunshot, like the firing of a crossbow or the lit fuse of TNT. It's the sound of someone leaving Hermitcraft. It's the sound no one wants to hear. Mumbo is in the kitchen, and he doesn't even bother to dry his hands from the soap suds as he grabs for his comm, sitting innocently on the counter. Scar fumbles for his and almost drops it, shaking hands making it hard to keep it steady. The words jumble together more than usual, and he bites back a hiss. Zuma, still sitting with Doc in the living room, flings open his admin panel so fast it's like it's simply willed into existence. Doc doesn't bother with grabbing his own comm and leans over Zuma's shoulder. It's one sentence, one notification, cheerfully proclaiming a story that shouldn't be possible, a horror in its own right, the thing they've been dreading for weeks. Green left the world. Every single person who is still in Mumbo's house hears Pearl scream. The door to Martin's room bursts open, and for a moment, he's quite sure that Armageddon has finally come for him. He makes a quick half-stumble, half-turn towards the door, reaching for his sword, before realizing it's unnecessary. Lara braces a hand against the door and holds the other one to her chest. Eyes wide and hair even more tumbly curly than it usually is. Her wings skew behind her in a frantic spread, like she's unsure if she wants to fly or hide. Martin, she signs with her hands, fingers flying so fast he almost can't decipher the message. Don't listen for him. Please don't listen for him. Martin! It's too late. The minute he processes who Laura is talking about, he throws out his magic, ears straining in order to hear his brother. And for the first time in what feels like years, Martin cries. He falls to his knees and bites down on his fist to keep from screaming as he shakes, wrapping an arm around himself in some semblance of hollow comfort. Pain, fear, help, gone, flock, home, flock, help, pain, scared, scared, scared. It keeps going. It's a constant, steady stream of Green's thoughts, projected into the air where Martin can snatch them from the air, even though he's worlds away, to the point where he can hear them, hear the terror, and pleading for someone, anyone, to answer the distress call. Martin curls into himself and cries, listening as his brother frantically calls for help that he can't give. Pix and Slow step onto Hermitcraft with a vengeance. It's just past midnight on the server, but there isn't a single soul that's asleep despite the early hour. And the world is alive with a haze of fury that practically lights the sky on fire. I was going to contact you in the morning. I thought we had time, Exuma explained to the Rush as he leads them to his office. Several tables already set up and scattered with paper and devices. He sweeps a pile of stuff off one of the surfaces and motions to it with a gloved hand, already moving for the next project. Slow hauls a massive duffel bag onto the table, and Tango is the only one who reacts with surprise to the loud noise. What? How did you toss it up there? He exclaims, and Pix laughs as he sets an admittedly smaller bag next to his companion's. You've gotta watch out for the small guys, dude. I'm telling you, they can pack a punch. Slow proves this mere moments later by hauling yet another bag onto the table. He gives Tango a sharp-toothed grin and starts unpacking what looks like an entire library of books. We brought all of our stuff. We weren't sure what would come in handy, Pix explains to Exuma, who nods and doesn't quite have the words to express his gratitude. Green was taken a mere 2 hours ago, and yet the whole server and beyond is already well underway with whatever preparations they deem necessary to get him back. Doc storms into the room, lugging his own bundle of supplies, and barely even spares a glance for the others. There's something dark and smoldering in his eye, and the faint wisps of smoke curl from his mouth and nose. The smell of gunpowder follows him into the room. Doc? Exuma calls out, his tone much gentler than what it's been for the past few hours. Doc stiffens and turns to his admin, placing the equipment down with a chunk. Yes? He asks, and another puff of smoke escapes along with a barely restrained hiss. Exuma crosses over and places a hand on Doc's shoulder, turning him away from the others in the room. Sensing the shift, Pix and Slow wander over to converse with Tango, and everyone else suddenly finds something more important to do. Are you alright? Exuma asks softly, and although Doc can't see behind the purple-tinted visor, he knows Exuma's face must be one of pure concern. If your creeper side is acting up, we can try... Thank you, Doc. Thank you, X. Doc interjects, as gently as possible. He pauses and takes a deep breath. When he speaks again, there's much less smoke. I will be fine. I'm just upset. Forgive me for not handling this better. No, Exuma sighs and pulls Doc out of the office and into a much quieter hallway. He takes off his helmet and tucks it under one arm, turning to face Doc fully. I don't blame you, my friend. Not at all. But I am concerned for your health. If the fire builds up, I know the dangers of my kind, thank you. Doc interrupts, and Exuma levels him with a flat glare that he just barely doesn't crumble under. Look, I can handle the fire. Please, Exuma, I just can't sit by and do nothing. Exuma hesitates for a moment, but he has to admit that his friend is right. Having Doc on the sidelines would be exponentially worse for all of them. For Doc, because it'll rile him up even more, and for the rest of the server, because they'll be lacking his invaluable skills. Fine, he relents, and Doc dips his head in thanks. Exuma puts his helmet back on and reaches for the door to his office. Now let's stop wasting time. We have some gods that need a good beating. Doc laughs loudly, a dark chuckle that has no humor behind it, and instead promises a world of pain for the Watchers. Exuma feels the same way. Green doesn't know where he is. He drifts somewhere between waking and not, caught in a limbo of awareness and delusion, shadows and fog invading his mind until he doesn't know what's real and what's not. They'll come looking for him. We must work quickly. That seems real. Green whines and shies away from the voice, multiplied and deafening in its cacophony. It rings in his ears and makes his head hurt. But it persists no matter what. He can feel magic around him, wavering one moment, then strong the next. When it buckles, he can feel the cold kiss of nothingness against his skin, and a sliver of a realization slips between the magic. He's in the void. He's waking up. We cannot keep him here for long. We must leave the in-between. And what do you suggest? The ether is closed to us. Player worlds are too weak. There will be war if we intrude on Netherborn territory. The end has been drifting since the Queen went into slumber. Let us take him there. No, no, no! The end is so far away! How will anyone find him if he's in the end? Green warbles a cry, and squirms in the suffocating cocoon of magic and wings. He feels the Watcher's surprise as they pull back momentarily, startled enough to return their attention to him. Did he just... Avian instincts. He's fallen back onto them again. How very mortal. A shame. We created something godly, and he throws away like it doesn't matter. The decision is made. The end is where we'll go. No! Green screams and thrashes, throwing his wings out as wide as they'll go. He reaches for home. Where is home? Flock, Pearl, Mumbo, Hermits, Xuma, help, home, home, home! For a moment, a mere single moment, he feels something connect. A flash of hope, the feel of something familiar, a spark of warmth. The watchers overwhelm him again, dragging him down, 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 until he can barely feel his body, and all he feels is cold. Stop resisting, Zelqua. The void relents and is replaced by air that is too thin but breathable, a steady hum like thousand bells, sounding together like stars gently singing as one. It's relaxing and not at the same time, because Green knows exactly what it means. They're in the end. A dimension as vast and unexplored as the ocean, with no sky and no ground to be seen. To enter the end is to welcome the thought of losing oneself, both in body and mind. The hermits will never find him here. There's a knock on the door. Martin is the only one to hear it, everyone else too engrossed in their work to even care. It's been like this for the past few days. You can't help but notice a constant upkeep of work, and stress again. The only reason the players haven't responded from starvation and sheer lack of self-care is because Martin and the others stubbornly determined to keep them going. The knock again. Martin sighs, abandoning his already cold tea and crossing over to the door, delicately stepping on over a map that spreads across half the carpet. He opens the door and practically melts from relief, reaching out a hand to grab onto the door frame for support. "Thank you for coming," he says. Tardis, heading the clustered group of evolutionists, grins and claps him on the shoulder, headphones hanging around his neck like they always do. "You should have messaged earlier," he replies, and steps around Martin into the room without further comment. The evolutionists follow behind, some pausing to give Martin quick hugs or pats on the back. They spread out into the room, starting up conversations and catching the others by surprise. "We're here to help," Tardis explains to a dumbfounded Exuma, straightening up from the console he and Doc have been leaning over for the past few hours. "I'm sure Pearl's already been helping you a lot with her oodles of knowledge, but we're not too bad either. Green is family, and we're getting him back no matter what." "We can use all the help we can get," Exuma replies, and he easily makes room for Tardis at his side. Doc eyes the newcomer for a moment, but allows him to listen to Exuma's explanation uninterrupted. "So, how are things looking here?" Jimmy asks softly, and Martin realizes that he's the only one who hasn't yet ventured into the room. His friend hovers by the door uncertainly, playing with the frayed ends of his pale blue jacket. His eyes jumped from corner to corner, unsure where they want to land. "Not too good, if I'll be honest," Martin admits with a heavy heart. "We're no closer to finding him than we were 3 days ago. Even Pearl's at a loss." The player in question is currently crouched on the floor with Lara, thumbing through a book approximately the size of a dictionary, conversing quietly with the listener and pointing out passages in the tome. Martin's not entirely sure how the two of them are communicating, but he's glad they are. In different circumstances, he'd even be happy that they're getting along so well. But these aren't different circumstances, and Martin's brother is in grave danger. He shakes his head and turns back to Jimmy. "Don't worry about not knowing what they're up to. It all goes way over my head," Martin says. "If you want, you can try to force some food down their throats. Tango hasn't eaten anything since yesterday, I'm pretty sure. Oh, except Redstone. He what? Martin lets out a quiet chuckle and gently pulls Jimmy out the door, leading the way towards the kitchen. It's a brief moment of levity in a stress-filled time, but he appreciates the evolutionist's arrival more than he can express in words. He just hopes it's enough to bring Grian back. The rhythmic sound of stone against metal is the only thing Cleo bothers to listen to. She hones all of her senses in on the task, driving the whetstone against the edge of her blade with even strokes. It calms her and brings her back down to earth, instead of wandering away into the clouds like her mind seems to want to do these days. Mind if I join you? There are no footsteps to herald his approach, no rustling of fabric or intake of breath. Any other person would have been startled at the unexpected sound, no warning to be heard. But Cleo simply picks up her blade and squints at it, tilting it in the light. Not necessarily, she replies. The blade isn't sharp enough, she decides, and brings it back down onto her lap. The whetstone is placed back against the edge. A moment of quiet, and then Etho sits down next to her, silent as ever. He pulls out his sword and lays it on his knees. A stone identical to Cleo's is produced from his pocket. They continue sharpening their weapons, and don't say a word. There isn't anything to be said after all. Nothing except the bone-deep determination to inflict pain on those who would dare take one of their own. Two warriors sit side by side in the grass, one dead and the other not quite alive, and prepared for hell on earth. They've built walls. Grian isn't entirely sure how or when, but the island they've dumped him on is surrounded on all sides by a wall of endstone, pulled from the very ground like it simply grew that way. He's quite sure it's because he tried to escape twice, or no, maybe 3 times. He's starting to lose track of time here. Not that he had a way to keep track in the first place. There's no day cycle here, no way to count the agonizing seconds that tick by. But still, he's tried to escape. He's determined to make it back home no matter what it takes. Even if it means to find the Watchers over and over again with a kind of rebellion that steals his breath away. It doesn't work. They catch him every time, and every time it hurts a little more when he's brought back down. His wings ache, and his head hurts, and he doesn't even bother to stand anymore. The Watchers seem content to keep him here, as if they know it'll be harder to restrain him if they try and move. So here they stay and sit. And every day, hour, moment, year, seems a little longer as the Watchers try and break him. He can feel them on the edge of his mind, unwilling to breach it as blatantly as they had before, but still determined to wipe everything that he's learned over the past few months and start anew. A blank slate. A perfect little being ready to be molded into a god. Grian won't let them erase who he is. Scar? Scar jolts and fumbles with the many crystals in his hands, cursing as they slip through his fingers and scatter onto the floor, tumbling away across the carpet. Mumbo, my good man, he exclaims, casting his friend a brief glance from before scrambling to pick up the array of colorful gems that littered the floor. What brings you to my humble abode? You're a hermit. Humble abode doesn't belong in our vocabulary, Mumbo points out, and Scar laughs for a second before the sound dies out in his throat. It feels wrong to laugh right now, and yet he can't help but also think that Grian would want him to laugh. Grian would hate to see everyone so stressed and worried right now. Grian. You still with me, buddy? Mumbo asks. Scar blinks and refocuses on the present, then looks down at the handful of crystals he's carrying. Why, of course, I'm just... It's a rare thing for Scar to be at a loss for words. Fumble them? Yes. Mispronounce them? Always. But to not know what to say at all? To find that there is no salesman's spiel naturally rolling off his tongue, and his mind feels like it's stuffed with cotton fuzz. I'm just getting ready, he says. It feels just as helpless as it sounds. Mumbo hums something under his mustache and crosses over, bending down to pick up a crystal that rolled away under the desk. Just like we all are, I suppose, Mumbo says with a sigh, straightening up and dropping the crystal into Scar's hands. If I'll be honest, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be getting ready for. You know you can stay behind, Scar replies, turning to turning to place all the crystals back in their pouch and tying it to his belt. X made it very clear that no one is required to go. Mumbo laughs. Scar turns back to see his friend smiling at him. A smile that is edged with worry and fear, but a smile nonetheless. He claps a hand on Scar's shoulder and shakes his head. Are you joking? There is no way I'm staying here while everyone else goes to rescue G. Shame on me if I let you do this on your own. I figured you would say that, Scar says with a sigh, and turns back to his desk. It's cluttered with baskets of junk and piles of paper, everything he's pulled out of old chests in the hope that it would help. It's been a long time since he's used his Vex magic. But if there's anyone he'll summon it for, it's Grian, one of his closest friends and one of the hermits. Someone he's grown to love like family and care for like a brother. He'd do the same for any of them. He'd call upon the crackly, shimmering magic that lies dormant in his bones and feel it arc across his skin, prickly, itchy, and strange. For family, Scar will use his magic. For a brother, he'll claim his birthright and use it to crush anyone that dares to stop him. Let's get our hermit back, Scar says, and Mumbo grins widely. He floats, or maybe he doesn't, anchored to the ground and barely able to breathe. Every inch of his body, where's his body? He can feel it, then he can't. Hurting and sore and painful. There's a fidget cube in his pocket. The cube brings back memories of something nice. Someone with big wings and a chirp that soothes him, and sharp dark eyes that are much warmer than his own. High-stress situations tend to bring out the bird brain, a voice explains, the golden haze of a memory tinting the words. If you think it'll happen often, then you should probably keep one in your pocket for emergencies. He fiddles with it between his hands, little buttons and switches on the side to occupy him enough that he relaxes somewhat. It's soothing, listening to the click, click, click of the cube as he turns it over, blindly, not even bothering to open his eyes. Something cold touches his hands, and he chirps in distress as the fidget cube is peeled from his fingers, pulled away, and no, it's gone. It reminds him of someone good, and now it's gone. A mortal toy. Someone muses, and he curls his wings further around himself to protect against the ear-rattling cacophony. Astonishing how much was lost in so little time. He's barely himself anymore. But he is. He's more himself than he ever was. He's himself. He's a player. He's an avian. He's supposed to be a watcher. He's supposed to be a god. There are too many memories built up, a different voice hisses, something akin to frustration ringing in harmony with the chorus. We cannot remove them without damaging the code block. Then we take off the code block? Are you sure that's wise? A change that drastic? If he is not strong enough, then this whole thing was a failure. He must learn to bear his own mind if he is to become one of us. Turkson, we leave it to you. The collective is at a standstill. A long moment of silence rings through the end, as the voices shift and murmur, and he floats and hurts and wishes for a place far away. Remove the block. If he does not break, we'll reinstate the block on everything and restart. He gasps and tries to pull himself up, because that's not good. They're talking about making him remember, and he doesn't want to remember. He told someone that, but he hasn't told them. Magic winds around his wrists and anchors them to the ground. It strangles him and crawls down his throat, curling around his legs and seeping in between every feather until his wings fall and lie still, weighted down by magic and power and cold. Remember, Zelqua. The watchers hum, and the wall at the back of his mind that he's become so intimately familiar with shatters. It bends and breaks and collapses under a flood of 1,000 times stronger than anything he's ever felt, sweeping him away and pulling him down, down, down. Light, sound, feel, taste, ocean breeze and laughter, obsidian and wood, and stone and diamonds, and sand between his toes, and a sword between his hands. Hey, Green, come on! Greba, I found something weird. What's up, mate? Okay, so I had this idea. Nettie, Tardis, Martin, Bigby, Pearl, Jimmy, Evo. It's all back. Every last second, every last minute, every bit of anything he sought after for the past 3 months. Every unexplainable urge and inexplicable recognition. Every time his heart sings for something without knowing the melody. And every moment he's so sure he knows something without having learned it. Crean screams. Zelqua screams. It rips from his throat and cuts through the cacophony, silencing the chorus with a solo note that stretches on and on and on and on and on. He screams. The memories flood his mind, and his eyes and his ears, overwhelming and crushing, glowing and warm. They pull him down until he's not sure if he's even alive anymore. If his scream is actually making it out of his mouth, or if it's stuck in his throat. A cry and an alarm, and a desperate, desperate plea for it to stop. He remembers. He remembers everything. And that is the end of chapter 30.